Good afternoon, everyone. We are from the opposition side, and now we will be debunking the government side's arguments and also stating some of our own. So first and foremost, she mentioned that we our government has given a relatively slow response, and that which is why we're unsuccessful. She also mentioned that her friend that her friend personally did not take the protocols needed and suffered consequences on themselves. Now that, while that is unfortunate, that is not the fault of the government that the friend decided to not follow the guidelines and the health protocols as ordered by our government. It is our own responsibility as citizens to keep ourselves and others safe with the guidance of the government that they have already provided for us, namely facilities such as Peduli Lindungi, and also the implementation of PSBB and PPKM. Next, I would like to mention that there are things that the government did in favor of handling this pandemic that I personally believe worked in our that personally worked well. During the beginning, in early May of 2020, the government immediately ordered schools to close, which is considered a fascist response with all things considered. And on top of that, they had relatively good management towards the pandemic, considering that we are a highly populated developing country. And the proof is now, if if I'm sorry, I'm just going to restart that. There have been cases where we have been successful, relatively successful at least, in combating this. For example, there was a time where we had less than 1,000 confirmed cases in Jakarta alone that happened in early October, which is a record for us since June of 2020. This information was gathered by the news that we have been watching. And we would also like to add that there have been consequences to those people who don't follow the health protocols. For example, people who do not wear masks or refuse to wear masks and go out purposely, they have been fined, and some have even been put there is also an irrefutable fact that the implementation of how we are how it is mandatory for us to wear masks and also physical distance has significantly decreased the amount of cases that would have otherwise skyrocketed if the if the government had done nothing to decrease the spread of the pandemic. That is all from us. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that speech. I call upon the second Speaker of the government side of the House, Deputy Prime Minister. The floor is yours.
I accidentally closed the timer. I'm really sorry. You can continue.
Excuse me.
DPM, are you ready?
Oh yeah, yes, ready.
Please have your teammates mute their Zoom because you're echoing right now.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Okay, before I move on to my speech, I want to remind you my POI's preference. If you want to like do POIs, you can just unmute yourself or just do it in the chat or just raising your hand. Okay. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, my first speaker already said that at the first place, Indonesia needs to more aware, but that doesn't happen. The things that happen is Indonesia is slow respond from this COVID-19. Indonesia should, at the first place, they should more aware. They should more given the people education about this COVID-19. Now, a lot of people trust about the hoax, right? Like from the like that I read from the social media, there is some rumors about the vaccine. If you get the vaccine, you can turn into the tyrant. At first, I was laughing at it and I thought it was a joke, but for some people it is not a joke and they take it for seriously. So me as the second speaker would cover about the solution and mechanism. Well, my first speaker already covered about the proof. Before I move on, I'm going to rebuttal from what the first speaker from the opposite team has said. First, they say about the spread hoaxes. Well, spreading hoaxes mean that you're into our team, you agree with my team that the government is unsuccessful for handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Because why? Why? Because spreading hoaxes, the government should should handle it. The government should see the social media about the hoax. The government should take down the hoaxes, right? But in here, the government doesn't do it, and there is a lot of rumors about false rumors about this vaccine, about the COVID-19, spread those hoaxes about the COVID-19. Like I said before, there is some hoax about the vaccine that can make you into Titan, and that is not true, because some people thought it was a joke, but some people thought it was not a joke and they can take that seriously. Some people that maybe think that they can do vaccine, but because of these spreading rumors, they not take the vaccine. In here, the government job is need to take down those hoaxes, but they do not do that. That make them unsuccessful in the handling of COVID-19 pandemic. I already said that my first speaker said that in the first place, Indonesia needs aware, but Indonesia is slow respond from it. As we know, other nation, other country already from the first start of this COVID-19 pandemic, those nations such as Singapore, they take this seriously. They already cancel us the fight from other nation to their nation. But Indonesia, we still open the fight from other nation, make us Indonesia having this COVID-19. Even if Indonesia more aware from the start, they can handle it. They can successfully handle it. But we cannot turn back the time, right? Indonesia not aware at the first place make Indonesia unsuccessful in handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, me as the second speaker, that's just I already said that, I'm going to give you the solution and mechanism. The solution is Indonesia need to giving education. Well, at the first place, they need to give the education, but now we cannot turn back the time. We need to more giving the education. Education in here, I mean to tell the people that the COVID-19 is a real thing. The COVID-19 is a real that going to happen, that happened. The pandemic is happening right now. And other people that take easy on this COVID-19, the Indonesia government need to give them education so that they can start doing the protocols, because what the example from my first speaker has said that her friend already her friend is go to the mall and go playing with their friends while they get the COVID-19. Isn't that make Indonesia unsuccessful in handling COVID-19? They not give enough education to those people that doesn't care about the COVID-19. If Indonesia give more education from like social media and stuff, these people can start thinking about themselves, because if we got COVID and go around, the impact is not going just for them, but to other people also, right? To other people that already use masks and stuff. It's not their fault getting this COVID, but the one who get COVID that's spreading the COVID. So in here, we want government. Our solution is the government giving more education to those people, like for the mechanism, like the government can tell the people from the hospital to go to school and spread the education to them that the COVID-19 is a real thing, that the COVID-19 can happen in any time, anywhere. The government should handle it, especially for such a kid, so that they can they can learn, because they're still a kid, that they more fast to learn, right? And the government should give vaccine to all those people, and because of the government already giving the education, the government can make these people want to take a vaccine, because there is some people that do not want to take the vaccine because of the false rumor, right? And this is make Indonesia unsuccessful on handling this COVID-19, because at the first place, I already said that they're not aware. So in my solution, they need to more aware by giving education and giving more aware to the people. And then the second is This change that can guarantee is, first, when they get the education, more education, they can start to they can get the vaccine, make Indonesia the one who make Indonesia more or less that get corona and COVID-19, and this pandemic can be over. We hopefully this pandemic can be over. My team has care that we already giving you the solution, and we want this pandemic to be over. And if you get the education, enough education about this COVID-19 and stuff, you can get vaccination, and then you can do the protocols, because if we do vaccine and protocols, this pandemic can be over. So that's why we agree with the motion today that this house, the government, Indonesia has been unsuccessfully in the handling COVID-19 of the pandemic. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that speech. I call upon the second speaker of the opposition side of the House, Deputy Leader of Opposition. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. I, as the Deputy Leader of Opposition, is here to make a statement. The second speaker of the government really insists of Indonesia needing to be aware of COVID-19. And as we as opposition think that Indonesia is already aware. How is this? Because everywhere around us, I think that COVID-19 is really a big topic in which people are always talking about COVID-19. And we also have social media. Social media is a really big part in our lives, as we use social media to know news, to upload stuff, and basically to get information. And how is that useful for Indonesia in being aware? Yes, hoaxes are spread. Yes, they are getting into people's mind. They are really affecting in people's life. But hoaxes, social media has trusted and not trusted, where it has always been, for example, website. Some of the websites are not trusted, yes, but I think we think that Indonesia is already aware enough. And I want to elaborate on how Indonesia has not.
POI.
Yes.
I was going to asking about what is the proof that you were mentioned before that we already aware. I mean, like, what is the fundamental proof that you were meaning to say? Thank you.
As a proof of Indonesian citizens being aware of COVID-19, like being aware of the COVID-19, people are going out with masks everywhere, even though it's not majority of people using masks, but most people use masks. And how are we aware? Free vaccines are given to the Indonesian citizens. And do I continue the speech, or do you want to answer again?
No, thank you. You can continue.
Thank you. For the vaccine, I want to insist that Indonesia is a big country. It's a developing country with more than 270 million people, whereas in Singapore, it is a small country, and we can see the difference of Singapore and Indonesia. What is exactly the difference between Singapore and Indonesia? From a long, long time ago, Singapore's people are really structured as Indonesian. We are really spread out. As we can see geographically, Singapore is island, so it is reasonable that the vaccine is taking a really long time. Might I remind you that Singapore's people are really disciplined in their COVID-19 restrictions. And you were talking about how government has a slow response on Indonesia's COVID-19, while research has showed that we are always aware of COVID-19 since early January. How is that? Because as we know, from December 2019, when the virus broke out in Wuhan, we can know that from the news, like I said, social media, news, everywhere we can get information. And we can see that COVID-19 is a real thing. And the government, Indonesia's government, has always been keeping up, following up since January, whether or not Indonesia has or has not a single COVID-19 patient. And fortunately, since January till March, around March, early March, we did not have any COVID cases, which we are thankful for that. However, unfortunately, in March, we were told that Indonesia has finally 2 cases of COVID-19. And from then, even though the government didn't actually initiate a lockdown, Indonesia has closed their schools as we are sent into a 2 weeks holiday, and it's not a holiday, but it's technically we're studying at home. It means that the government are taking precautions against the virus. And you were insisting about education. Education, I mean, have we not talked about COVID-19 in school? Are we not given webinars, seminars about COVID-19? Are we not given projects about COVID-19? COVID-19 is a really big thing, not just in Indonesia and in the world. And like I said, social media, the internet is a huge thing. We can separate hoax and what's real, because from what's not real will be debunked in a real and trusted website. So yes, people maybe not want to take the vaccine because they might change your DNA, but like I said, we can use social media as our source of knowledge. We can know that the truth about this vaccine from WHO, from the World Health Organization. How are they not supposed to believe the World Health Organization when it is a trusted and official source from the world that they are talking about the COVID-19? And like I said, projects about in school. I think that every school in Indonesia, majority of schools have been giving education about COVID-19. For example, in Bahasa Indonesia, we were told to analyze an article about COVID-19. And I think that the government has really given so much time and hard work to educate people in Indonesia about COVID-19. Plus, might I remind you that there are large PSBB, which is the large scale of solution, which we have to distance ourselves. We call it Indonesia large scale social restrictions. And it has proven to help. How? Because of the support of Peduli Lindungi, the app called Peduli Lindungi. What is Peduli Lindungi? So Peduli Lindungi is a COVID-19 tracking application that's officially used for digital contact tracing in Indonesia. So you said that your friend can still go to the mall, but now malls use Peduli Lindungi as a sign of protection. So people who don't have Peduli Lindungi cannot go into the mall. So I think that the COVID-19 has really been going down since there is a restriction on the large scale, as we are having less than 1,000 cases per day in Indonesia, and people are starting to go to school again, and everything is just going slowly back to normal as most schools has already opened, and people are going back to school, people are going back to offices, even though we still have the large social restriction. COVID-19 is going down. This proven that the government has successfully taken COVID-19 seriously. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that speech. I call upon the third speaker of the government side of the House. The floor is yours.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Wait. Oh, kedengar apa dengar? Wait. Okay. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. So before I'm going to summarize my friends' arguments, I want to say my rebuttals first to the opposition teams. First thing first, I want to say that we oppose the with what the first speaker of the negative team about their argument that's saying about the rules of learning from home, and which is one of the successful government program. But ladies and gentlemen, we should see too that when schools are closed, but they do not close the other public places like mall and etc. Even Bali has a lead responsibility for people restriction. And the second point is I want to emphasize that the government of Indonesia not really aware from the beginning when the COVID-19 exists or comes in entering Indonesia. If if the government really aware and there will not be an increase in cases until there is a shortage of spaces for the people affected by COVID-19. And if you say if the government has provided education, but why until now there are still many Indonesians who develop and do not comply with the regulations. And move on. I want to say that we, as the government affirmative team, strongly believe that the government of Indonesia has been unsuccessful in the handling COVID-19 pandemic. Why do we agree with what the motion said? It's probably because from what we see from the situation that is really happening right now, as well as what we are seeing and experiencing, we can see that there are already have many negative impacts that arise from COVID-19 virus. But the Indonesian government responded slowly and was unresponsive, like what our first speaker said before, that in this case, the government has a very long and unresponsive at the first coronavirus cases are appear in Indonesia. And as many of us know, when the coronavirus cases was announced by WHO to the world, the Indonesia government did not immediately respond to this problem. The government even still allows to accept an international flight into this country, even though this case has happened in other countries before this, and Indonesia is not the first country who get this virus. And I want to emphasize that Indonesia is not the first country. So we can say they did not learn from the handling of the other country, such as Singapore. The government is even slow in notifying the public about the use of masks to avoid this virus. Other than that, if we look at nowadays situation that happened compared to the government handling the reduction of positive numbers in Indonesia, they are actually taking advantage of the Indonesian citizens. And in this pandemic, there are a lot
of corruption happened during this pandemic. And I want to reinforce what our second speaker had said, namely that the government is not in control in spreading awareness to the public about the dangers posed by the pandemic. They just think that this virus will only react the same as the flu virus. And they say Indonesia aware, but when other nation they said that the opposition team had said that Indonesia aware, the government of Indonesia aware, but when other nation already closed their fight from the other nation, like I said before, meanwhile Indonesia still open the fight from other nation, and that's mean Indonesia it's not aware at the first place when this virus entering our country. Thank you. And all I want to say is our team has win this competition because what? Because we already talked about many mechanism for this case to help to giving more to give more responsibility or the good solution that we can use to change what the government of Indonesia are playing for this country. Okay, that's it, I think. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech. I call upon the opposition whip to the floor. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, first I'd like to debunk the first claims made by the third speaker of the government side. They mentioned that the government lacks response when it comes to people entering Indonesia as newcomers. I'd like to debunk this by mentioning that Indonesian government has taken this very seriously, as the government has required every newcomer and travelers into Indonesia to quarantine for 40 days during the beginning of the pandemic. And I also like to debunk this by mentioning that the government has indeed taken measures to make sure that tourists and travelers stay where they are, as they are protected by government officials, such as for the students from China were brought home into Indonesia, and they were required to quarantine before going back into their respective homes. Next, I'd like to debunk their claims that if the government has properly educated the people of Indonesia, then why haven't they complied accordingly with the health protocols? I'd like to mention that the government has indeed placed in protocols so that the people who do not comply have received fair consequences, such as those who do not wear masks can be arrested, and those who try to cheat their way using fake vaccine cards have been given charges and have also been arrested. The third speaker of government has also mentioned that the government of this country did not take the proper response time in order to minimize the damages done by this pandemic. I'd like to say that this country has done its best, certainly, and it has definitely made a great impact. During the first cases of COVID-19, schools were quick to be shut down by the government, giving us a 2-week holiday. And I believe that that is considered fast response when it comes to protecting the adolescents and the youth of this country. Moreover, I'd like to add also, they compared our government's response to the government of Singapore. I'd like to remind you, as my friend in the second speaker has said, that Singapore is a much smaller country than Indonesia. They have much less citizens, which makes it so much easier to control by their government, rather than a country with over 2 170 million citizens. I'd also like to point out that Singapore is far more advanced when it comes to technology and mindset and discipline compared to Indonesia, where we are still very traditional and very rooted into our cultures. I'd also like to mention that the government of this country has indeed made the people aware, and there has been measures taken, such as official news sites and official hearings from the health department of the government. And that's not something that I believe is an inappropriate response. I believe that that's a very appropriate response when it comes to this pandemic. And this country has taken their measures very seriously, such as during the beginning of the pandemic, when the first 2 cases were announced in January of 2020, they were immediately apprehended by government officials and forced into quarantine so that they may not spread this illness to the public. And I'm sorry. A lot of people have taken part in notifying the citizens of Indonesia through social media and much more. When it comes to hoaxes and false news, there's only so much that can be done when the internet is a free place of speech. But the government has done the proper proceedings, such as spreading the news and spreading their opinions on this pandemic through their own social media.
Sorry,
So such that it is not their fault if the citizens
Opposition Whip. Opposition Whip, can you hear me?
Hello, I'm sorry, was I kicked out from the...
I think you broke up for a bit, so I'm gonna need you to go back like about 20 seconds into your speech.
Okay, what was the last sentence or phrase you heard? I'm sorry.
All I heard were people are aware and measures are being taken right after the cultures are rooted in Indonesia.
All right, I'd like to continue my speech. 3, 2, 1. As I was saying, the reasons why the Indonesian citizens have not been as compliant is out of the government's control, as it is because the people are connected more to their roots and their beliefs rather than the advanced mindsets in countries who are more developed. I'd also like to add that this country's government has already taken enough measures when it comes to spreading safety precautions and medical protocols through their own social media, such as the government's official accounts, where they spread the news and spread the new safety protocols that are in line, such as the lockdown or the large-scale restrictions. So this is not something that the government has not thought of. It is clearly something the government has put thought and mind into, so that they may spread the word for the safety of their citizens. And I'd also like to add that this country's response has actually affected a great deal into the cases and the damage done by this illness, such as the restrictions and the lockdown. It has definitely reduced the number of positive cases, along with the free vaccines that are distributed, which help reduce even more cases. And the government has already established a new normal where we are allowed to travel into malls and other public places, but we must already be vaccinated and we must follow safety protocols. That is all I can say for opposition. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that speech. To conclude the opposition side of the House, I call upon the reply speaker. The floor is yours. Opposition reply whenever you're ready. We're waiting for the reply speaker of opposition team. Are you ready? You're holding up the debate right now.
Sorry. Okay, I will do my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. Of all the arguments my opposition team has told and said, I would like to emphasize that Indonesia has really dealt COVID-19 well, and that we can see the proof that it has been going down. We can see the mountain of COVID-19 in Google in every data. We can see that the number of cases each day is probably going up and down, but it is always decreasing, because we can see that vaccines, the president is giving free vaccines, and the large scale restriction, and also the people being aware of education. We believe that the government has tried their best to minimize the spread of COVID-19. So we do believe that education is already given. We also believe that vaccines are also useful, because vaccine is taking a really long time, because like I said before, Indonesia is a big country with many islands, many cities, many towns, and we can say that the COVID vaccine will take a long time, but I do believe that Indonesia has dealt with COVID-19 really well, and that they are successful in dealing with COVID-19. I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that speech. I call upon the government reply speaker to conclude the debate today. Floor is yours.
I'm going to start my speech.
Sorry, your voice is very small right now. It's like you're very far away.
Wait. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, this is better.
Better? Is it better? Wait. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay. I'm going to start my reply speech in 3, 2. Oh, wait. There is like some here. I'm going to start. Okay, sorry for that. I'm going to start my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, my first speaker already giving you the proof that the government of Indonesia is unsuccessfully in the handling of COVID-19, while the other team doesn't give us any POIs. That means that the other team is agree with us that the government of Indonesia is not successful in the handling of COVID-19. My team already give you the education, the things that we're going to do about giving the education. We already giving you the solution, the mechanism, and also the things that are going to happen in the future that's going to change, and we can guarantee it, while the other team doesn't give you any of mechanism, any of solution. Meanwhile, they know that Indonesia, the government of Indonesia is unsuccessful in handling the COVID-19 pandemic, but they doesn't give you any solution and mechanism. Meanwhile, my team give you the proof, the solution, the mechanism. And my team has been very clear with our speech, with our rebuttal and stuff, while the other team misunderstanding what my team meant from the Singapore things. We doesn't mean from the population, we mean the flight that the Singapore, they close their flight. It's not we're not talking about the population. We're talking how the Singapore handle the Singapore handle their the government handle their nation. Meanwhile, this Indonesia doesn't care and slow respond about the COVID-19, and we already talk about it. Meanwhile, their team is is misunderstood. Even in these simple things, they're misunderstood. How about their argument? What can we think again about their argument? Their argument is going to be accurate and not factual, right? Is not accurate and not factual, because even in these simple things they cannot understand. How about their arguments? Can we think about that again? My team giving the rebuttal from the opposition team with the clear and understandable rebuttal, while the other team does misunderstood about my speech, my team's speech. That doesn't mean that the other team, the opposite team, has won the government the debate today. Mean that the debate today is winning by my team, the government team, or the affirmative team. My team has won the debate today because we already giving you a solution, and we giving you the mechanism and proving and make you and giving you proof that the government of Indonesia is unsuccessful in handling the COVID-19 pandemic. Make my team has win the debate today. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that speech. That concludes the debate for today. I will be deliberating on who